If you own a Tektronix 453 oscilloscope, chances are you've probably had issues with your fan becoming noisy or sounding like it really needs help. And this is going to be just a quick video to show you how the thing comes apart and how you can replace the bearings in it and maybe just lubricate it. Sometimes you can get away with just that. And it's a pretty simple operation. And so now I'm going to show you how to do it. Now to get to the fan, you're going to have to remove this panel off the back, which just entails taking off the 4 rubber feet or the plastic feet with the cord wrap, depending on which kind you have on yours. And then you take out the 4 screws that are here and here, and you just pull this off. That'll give you access to the back of the oscilloscope to where you can just remove the 3 screws holding this in and just pull this out. So here's the fan completely disassembled. I got it in an exploded view here. This is basically the end cap. This is a retaining ring that holds this bearing in. On this end of the shaft, there's a little tiny C-clip on this shaft here that holds this bearing in place. And then here's the rotor. Same thing on this side. We have this bearing that goes on this long shaft that the fan blade's attached to. And there's once again another little tiny C-clip right there that keeps this from moving around. And then there's a retaining ring, and then there's 3 washers, a wave washer, and an end cap. And these all slide into the motor body here. So these little bearings here are sealed bearings. They should last a long time, but they do eventually wear out. These here are SSR-3ZZ type bearings, and they're intended to go on a 0.1875 inch shaft. I went on eBay the other day and just did a quick look, and these are going between like $3 and $8 a piece. And if you have to go down that road, and you can find these bearings and replace them. And so to put this back together, it's basically just the reverse order of how you took it apart. You would put this bearing in this end first, then slide the rotor in, then insert this bearing, put this retaining ring in. Actually it would be in this order. Put the washers in, then the retaining ring, then put your little dust cap on the end, and you've essentially reassembled the motor. Now once you get this back together, you want to check for excessive play. If you can like push this motor shaft in and out a lot, you have too much play in the back. You might want to put a little, maybe one little washer back here to keep this from wobbling around, but this one fits pretty good, so in which case I'm going to stick this end cap back on, stick this end cap on here, and we're good to go. So now the motor is basically reassembled. Spins okay. Now, if as a last resort, if your fan is just super noisy and you just can't get rid of it, you can rebuild it, putting new bearings in it and stuff, new sealed bearings. I've gotten away with just adding a couple drops of oil down in here, and that seemed to take care of the problem. You have to kind of take the back cover off the oscilloscope to get to it, but it's really not that hard. This one here I removed out of the dead one as a backup fan. I think you have enough wire to pull this out and be able to repair this without having to cut the wires, but worst case scenario, you'd have to cut the wires so you can have room to mess around with the fan, and then you can just resolder the wires back together. So then the rest of it's pretty simple. You just have to stick this little, I'm not sure what this is, like a grounding ring, I guess. That goes here. Then you put your screws back in here. And then the last thing you have to do is put this little fan blade back on there and tighten the set screw. You can see the hole for it right there. And then you just want to make sure it freely spins. I found that it can be tricky getting this fan blade back on without it rubbing. As you can see here, there's actually two flat spots on the shaft, which it seems like for some reason when I use one, it doesn't want to spin freely. When I use the other, it does, even though they look like the same dimension and stuff. But yeah, once you tighten that set screw down, make sure it spins freely, you can insert it back in the oscilloscope, and you've repaired your fan.